The morning air at Highgrove was cold enough to burn the lungs. Michael stood at his post near the west entrance, his breath forming white clouds in the November darkness. He had been a royal guard for 11 years. 11 years of silence. 11 years of watching without speaking. 11 years of being invisible, but today everything would change. His eyes caught something in the hedgerow. A flicker of movement. Too quick for a bird, too deliberate for the wind. Michael's hand moved instinctively to his radio, then stopped. Protocol was clear. Report only confirmed threats. Never assumptions. Never hunches. The king was scheduled to walk the gardens in 20 minutes. He did this every Tuesday morning when he stayed at Highgrove. 20 minutes to sunrise. 20 minutes to be certain. Michael's heart hammered against his ribs. His training told him to wait. His instinct screamed something else. In the distance, he heard footsteps on gravel. The advanced security team was making their sweep. They would pass the hedgerow in 3 minutes. They would see nothing. The movement had stopped. Before we continue with what Michael did next, if you're enjoying this story, please subscribe. Stories like this take time to research and bring to life, and your support means everything. Michael took 3 slow steps toward the hedgerow. The frost crunched under his boots. Each sound felt like a gunshot in the silence. He was breaking position, breaking protocol. If he was wrong, his career was over. 20 feet from the hedge. He stopped, listened. The world seemed to hold its breath with him. No birds, no wind. Just the distant murmur of the security team's voices. Then he heard it, breathing, shallow and controlled. Someone was trying very hard to be quiet. Michael's radio crackled. West Post status. His thumb hovered over the button. One word would bring the entire security team running. One word would shut down the king's morning walk. One word might save a life, or end a career based on nothing. West Post status. The voice came again, sharper now. Michael's eyes fixed on the hedge. The breathing had stopped. Whoever was there knew they'd been heard. The next 30 seconds would determine everything. He pressed the button. West Post, all clear. The lie tasted like metal in his mouth. But he needed to see, needed to know. Because if he called a false alarm, if he disrupted the king's schedule over a fox or a gardener, he would never wear this uniform again. And if he was right about what he sensed in that hedge, calling it in too soon might spook whoever was hiding. Might make them run. Might mean they'd try again another day when Michael wasn't there to stop them. He moved closer. 10 feet now. His hand slipped inside his jacket. 5 feet. The hedge rustled. Not from wind. From inside, Michael's training took over. His body coiled, ready. His mind calculated distances, angles, threats. Then he saw it. A glint of metal catching the first ray of dawn light. That's when everything went wrong. A figure exploded from the hedge, not running away. Running toward the house, toward where the king would emerge in exactly 12 minutes. Michael's radio was already in his hand, but the figure was fast. Faster than anyone he'd trained against. Code red. West entrance. Armed intruder heading toward the figure spun. For one frozen moment, their eyes met. Michael saw something in that face that would haunt him for years. Not hatred. Not madness. Determination. The cold. Calm determination of someone who had planned this for a very long time. What happened in the next 7 seconds would change everything. Asterisk, asterisk. Michael launched himself forward. His body collided with the intruder's shoulder just as they reached for something in their jacket. They both went down hard on the frozen ground. The impact knocked the air from Michael's lungs. Pain exploded across his jaw. The intruder's elbow connected with precision. Stars burst behind Michael's eyes. But his grip didn't loosen. He'd trained for this. Muscle memory took over when the mind went blank. Footsteps thundered toward them. The security team, 30 seconds away, maybe less. The intruder knew it too. Their movements became frantic, desperate. Don't move. Michael gasped. His hand finally closed around the object in the intruder's jacket. Not a weapon. Phone. He pulled it free, just as 3 security officers reached them. Within seconds, the intruder was face down, hands secured behind their back. Michael rolled onto his side, sucking in cold air that burned his throat. His jaw throbbed. Blood dripped from his lip onto the white frost. "What the hell were you thinking?" The head of security, James, grabbed Michael's shoulder. Not gently. "You went silent. You left your post. You engaged a suspect alone." Michael couldn't speak yet. His lungs still felt crushed. He held up the phone instead. James snatched it from his hand. The screen was unlocked. Open to a text message thread. James's face went pale as he read. He immediately spoke into his radio. "Lock down the house. No one in or out. Wake the king. Tell him to stay in his quarters." Michael finally managed to sit up. "What does it say?" James didn't answer. He was already barking orders, coordinating the lockdown. 2 officers pulled the intruder to their feet. It was a woman, mid-30s. She wasn't fighting anymore. Just staring at Michael with that same cold determination. "You were too late anyway," she said quietly. Her accent was British, educated. "It's already inside."
Nice.
James heard it too. He grabbed the woman's arm. "What's inside? What did you do?" She smiled. Not a happy smile. A sad one. "I didn't do anything. I came to stop it." James looked from the woman to Michael. "Get her to the holding room. Full search. Now." The officers dragged her away. She didn't resist. She kept looking back at Michael, though, like she was trying to tell him something. "Sir," Michael said, forcing himself to stand. His legs shook, but held. What was in the messages? James handed him the phone. Michael's hands trembled as he read. The messages were technical, detailed. They mentioned the king's schedule, the garden walk, the west entrance, and something else. Something that made Michael's blood run cold. Package delivered to kitchen. Tuesday delivery. 6:47 a.m. Fresh flowers for morning arrangement. Michael checked his watch. 6:52 a.m. The flowers, he breathed. Someone poisoned the flowers. James was already running toward the house. "Seal the kitchen. No one touches anything." But Michael stood frozen. His mind raced through what he'd seen. What the woman had said? "I came to stop it. Not I did this. She came to stop it." If she was trying to stop it, who was she stopping? Another message caught his eye. Further up in the thread, the sender's name was just a number. The message was time-stamped 2 days ago. It read, "He trusts the Tuesday flowers. They're always from her. He always touches them first thing." This is our only window. Michael's stomach turned. Her, the king's wife. No, that was impossible. But the message continued. The arrangement comes from her personal request. No one questions flowers from the queen. He'll be dead before anyone knows. The world tilted. Michael had to grip a fence post to stay standing. This wasn't possible. This couldn't be real. But the woman in custody? The desperate run toward the house. She wasn't trying to hurt the king. She was trying to save him. From his own wife, Michael's radio crackled. Kitchen secured. Flower arrangement located. We're running tests now. James's voice came through next. Michael, get to the holding room now. His jaw still ached. His ribs screamed protest. But none of that mattered, because if that woman was telling the truth, they had just arrested the only person trying to save the king's life, and somewhere in that house, a bouquet of poisoned flowers sat waiting. Asterisk, asterisk, the holding room smelled like disinfectant and fear. The woman sat in a metal chair, hands still bound. Her face was bruised where she'd hit the ground, but her eyes were clear, focused. Michael entered alone. James had gone to coordinate with the chemical analysis team. Protocol said Michael shouldn't be here. Shouldn't be anywhere near a suspect he'd physically engaged. But protocol had already been shattered this morning. You need to listen to me, the woman said before Michael could speak. My name is Dr. Sarah Chen. I'm a toxicologist at Cambridge, and I've been tracking a plot to kill the king for 3 months. Michael stayed by the door. Then why didn't you go to the police? To security? Why hide in the bushes? Because I don't know who to trust. Her voice cracked. The poison isn't just in the flowers. It's a 2-part system. The flowers are treated with a chemical compound, harmless on its own, but there's a second part. Something in the house. Something the king will come into contact with after he touches the flowers. When the 2 chemicals meet on skin, they become lethal. Heart attack within minutes. Michael's mouth went dry. How do you know this? My sister. Sarah's eyes filled. She was a research chemist. Brilliant. 6 months ago, she called me. Said she'd discovered something terrible. Someone had asked her to develop this compound. Paid her a fortune. She didn't know what it was for. Not at first. Sarah took a shaking breath. When she figured it out, she tried to back out. Tried to go to authorities. They found her body 2 weeks later. Suicide, they said. Pills and alcohol. But my sister didn't drink. And she was terrified of pills after our mother's overdose. Michael moved closer. Sat across from her. Why would the queen want to kill her own husband? Money, Sarah said flatly. Always money. But not just money. Power. Control. The king's been preparing to step back from certain duties. Planning to change his will. Redistribute assets. Someone stands to lose millions. Maybe billions. That's insane, is it? Sarah leaned forward. My sister's notes mentioned a code name. Just a first name. Camilla. The queen's actual name.
Oh.
Michael shook his head. Anyone could have used that name. Could have been a misdirection. That's what I thought too. Until I tracked the flower delivery. It's from a private greenhouse. One the queen personally funds. The Tuesday arrangement is her standing order. Has been for years. The king's favorite roses. He always arranges them himself in his study. His little Tuesday morning ritual. The pieces click together in Michael's mind. A ritual. Predictable. Private. Perfect for murder. What's the second chemical? He asked. Where is it? I don't know. Sarah's voice broke. I've been trying to find out for weeks. My sister's notes were incomplete. All I know is it's something he touches regularly. Something in his study. Or his personal rooms. Something so common no one would question it. Michael's radio crackled. Analysis complete. Flowers contain traces of dimethyl compound. Unknown purpose. Could be fertilizer residue? Sarah's eyes went wide. That's it. That's the first part. You need to keep him away from his study. Away from anything he touches after the flowers. Michael keyed his radio. James, lock down the king's study. Don't let anyone in, including the king. A pause. Then James's voice came back, tight with stress. Michael, the king is already in his study. He went in 5 minutes ago. Sarah grabbed Michael's arm. What does he touch first thing? Always? Every morning? Michael's mind raced. He'd never been in the king's private study. Never been that close. But he'd heard stories. The staff talked. There was something the king did every morning. A ritual as sacred as the Tuesday flowers. Then it hit him. His reading glasses. He always puts them on first thing. Reads the morning papers. Sarah went white. The glasses. The coating on the glasses. That's where the second chemical is. When his fingers touch the flowers, then touch the glasses, then touch his eyes. She didn't finish. She didn't have to. Michael was already running, his radio in hand. James, the king's glasses. Don't let him touch his glasses. The hallway blurred. His boots hammered the floor. Behind him, he heard Sarah screaming for someone to release her, to let her help. But Michael couldn't think about that. Couldn't think about anything except reaching that study. The king's quarters were on the second floor, east wing. Michael had never run these halls before. Wasn't allowed, but he knew the layout. Every guard knew it, memorized for emergencies. This qualified. He took the stairs 3 at a time. His injured ribs screamed. His jaw throbbed with each footfall. 2 more hallways. 1 more turn. A voice crackled on his radio. All units stand down. The king is fine. Repeat, the king is fine. Michael didn't slow down. Couldn't, 'cause fine and safe were different things. The king might be fine right now, this second. But if those glasses were still in reach, he burst through the study door. No knock, no announcement. Career-ending offense number 3 this morning. The king sat at his desk. Papers spread before him. His hand was reaching toward a case on the corner. A leather case. The one that held his reading glasses. Your Majesty. Michael gasped. Don't touch those glasses. Asterisk, the king's hand froze. His eyes met Michael's. For a moment, the world stopped. A guard, in his private study, shouting orders. This had never happened. Could never happen. James appeared in the doorway behind Michael. Your Majesty, I apologize. The glasses, Michael interrupted. His voice was steadier now, clearer. Sir, please don't touch the glasses. Or the flowers. Not until we've tested them. The king slowly lowered his hand. His face was unreadable. Explain. James shot Michael a look that promised severe consequences later. But Michael stepped forward. Sir, we have reason to believe there's been a threat to your safety. A chemical compound, possibly lethal. We need to test everything in this room. I arranged the flowers myself 10 minutes ago, the king said quietly, as I do every Tuesday. Michael's heart stopped. Did you? Did you touch your glasses after? I was about to. The king looked at his hands. I washed them first. I always wash my hands after handling the roses. They sometimes have thorns. The relief that flooded through Michael made his knees weak. Sir, we need you to come with us. Now. And we need a hazmat team in here immediately. For the first time, the king looked uncertain, vulnerable. He was a man in his 70s. A man who'd lived through threats before. But something in Michael's voice must have convinced him. He stood slowly. What kind of compound? He asked. A binary poison, sir? Michael moved to escort him. 2 parts. Harmless separately. Lethal together. If your hands had still had residue from the flowers when you touched the glasses, he didn't finish. The king understood. His face went pale. Within minutes, the study was sealed. Men in protective suits swarmed the room. The king was taken to a secure location for medical examination, and Michael stood in the hallway watching his career evaporate. James approached. His face was granite. You broke protocol 4 times this morning. Left your post. Engaged a suspect without backup. Entered the king's private quarters without permission. Gave him a direct order? Yes, sir. You should be dismissed. Possibly prosecuted. Yes, sir. James studied him. But you also just saved his life. So you're going to stand here while I decide which part matters more. Michael waited. His whole body ached. The adrenaline was wearing off, leaving behind the sharp reality of pain. And fear, not for himself. For what came next, the woman Michael said. Dr. Chen, is she being questioned? James's expression softened slightly. Her story checks out. Cambridge has a Dr. Sarah Chen on faculty. Her sister was indeed a chemist who died 6 months ago. We're verifying the rest. The glasses, sir? The coating. Can they test for their testing now? James's radio crackled. He listened, his face growing darker. When he looked back at Michael, something had changed in his eyes. The glasses. They found it. Organophosphate compound. Military grade. Applied to the inside of the frames. It would have absorbed through skin contact within seconds. Mixed with the floral compound, he paused. The king would have been dead in under 3 minutes. The words hung in the cold air. Michael had to sit down. His legs simply gave out. He sank against the wall. The Queen's flowers, he whispered. Every Tuesday. For how long? 3 years, according to staff. Then this was planned. For years, waiting for the right moment. James nodded grimly. The chemical on the glasses was fresh, applied within the last 72 hours. Someone had access to this room? Someone who knew the king's habits. Who else has access? Immediate family. Personal staff. Security leads. James met Michael's eyes. And the Queen, the implications settled over them like snow, heavy, suffocating. We need to question her, Michael said. We can't. James's voice was tight. She's gone. Left for London early this morning? Before sunrise? Her staff said it was a last-minute decision. Michael's mind raced. Before or after the flower delivery? James checked his notes. After, she left at 7:03 a.m., 16 minutes after the delivery was confirmed. She knew. Michael stood again. She knew something would happen this morning, either success or discovery. So she made sure she was somewhere public, somewhere with witnesses. That's speculation. That's strategy, sir. Psst. Michael's voice was harder now. She couldn't be here when it happened. Too suspicious. But she also couldn't be too far. Needed to be close enough to return when news broke. To play the grieving widow. James's jaw tightened. Even if you're right, proving it is different. She's the Queen. We can't just... We have Dr. Chen's testimony. Her sister's research, the chemicals, the timing, circumstantial, all of it. James ran a hand through his hair. And even if we had concrete proof, do you understand what this means? The political implications? The scandal? Michael understood, but understanding and accepting were different things. Sir, someone tried to kill the king this morning. Someone he trusts. Someone who shares his home, his life. If we don't act, we are acting. James cut him off. Quietly, carefully, the king is safe. That's what matters right now. The rest will take time. But time was something Michael wasn't sure they had. Because whoever had planned this wouldn't stop. They'd tried once, failed, and desperate people did. Desperate things when their carefully laid plans fell apart. Somewhere in London, the Queen was receiving news that her husband was still alive, still asking questions, and Michael knew, with absolute certainty, that this wasn't over. 3 hours later, Michael sat in an interrogation room with Dr. Sarah Chin. She'd been cleared of immediate suspicion, but remained in protective custody. For her own safety, James had said. Michael understood the real reason. She knew too much, had seen too much. Tell me about your sister, Michael said gently. Everything. Sarah's hands wrapped around a cup of tea. She hadn't drunk any, just held it for warmth. Emma was 5 years younger than me. Brilliant, truly brilliant. She could have worked anywhere, but she loved research. Pure science. She took a position with a private lab 18 months ago. Said they were doing cutting-edge work. What kind of work? Medical research. At least that's what she thought. Sarah's voice cracked. She was developing compounds for controlled-release medications. Time-release formulas. But someone perverted her work. Turned it into a weapon. Who hired her? A company called Meridian Solutions. Registered in the Cayman Islands? Front company. We checked after Emma died. It dissolved 3 days after her death. All records gone, Kel wrote notes. But she must have had contact with someone. A supervisor. A colleague. One person. Sarah set down the tea. A woman. Always wore expensive clothes. Emma said she had an unusual accent. Upper-class British, but with something else underneath. She called herself Margaret. Not Camilla, but close enough. Did Emma ever see her face? Once, at a distance. She described her as elegant. Silver hair. Mid-60s, maybe older. Sarah looked up. Emma tried to take a photo. For her records, but the woman noticed. Threatened her. That's when Emma knew she was in danger. Did she still have the photo? I never found it. Police said there was nothing on her phone or computer. Everything had been wiped. Michael leaned back. Dr. Chen, I need you to think very carefully. In your sister's notes, was there anything about why? Why the king specifically? Sarah pulled a folded paper from her pocket. I wasn't supposed to keep this, but I made a copy before they took Emma's research. She unfolded it. Look at the dates. Michael studied the paper. It was a timeline, chemical tests, formula adjustments, and notes in the margin. One date was circled in red, March 15th. Why is that significant? That's the date the king announced his new charitable trust. Billions of pounds, redistributed from the royal estate to public causes. Healthcare, education, environmental protection. Sarah's finger traced another note. Emma wrote, "This changes everything. They're panicking." That's all she wrote. But think about it. Who loses when the king gives away that money? Michael understood. The family. The heirs. Exactly. And who inherits if the king dies before the trust is finalized? The answer was obvious. Sickening. The queen, as his widow. Sarah nodded. And the trust hasn't been finalized yet. Won't be for another 6 weeks. Legal review? Tax implications. It's complicated. But if the king died before signing the final documents, the money stays in the estate. Goes to his widow. Michael felt cold. We're talking about billions of pounds. Enough to kill for. Sarah's voice was flat. Emma figured it out. That's why they killed her. And that's why I've been hiding. Investigating. I couldn't go to police. Couldn't trust anyone. What if the conspiracy went deeper? So you came here? This morning. Why today? Because I finally cracked Emma's code. Sarah pulled out another paper. She left me a message. Hidden in her research notes, a cipher. It took me 2 months to decode it. The message said, Tuesday, flowers, glasses, final window. After this, they'll find another way. Michael's chest tightened. She knew the exact plan. She helped develop it. Before she understood what it was for, tears streaked Sarah's face. My sister created the weapon that was supposed to kill the king. She died trying to stop it. And I almost failed her. You didn't fail? You saved him? Did I? Sarah looked up. Because the queen is still free. Still planning? You think this was her only option? If she's willing to poison her husband, she'll find another way. Michael knew she was right. But what could they do? They had suspicions, theories, circumstantial evidence. Not proof. Not enough to arrest a queen. His radio crackled. Michael, James, get to the command center now. They ran. The command center was chaos. Monitors showed security feeds, phone logs, financial records. And in the center, James stood with a tablet, his face ashen. What is it? Michael asked. We tracked the queen's movements this morning. James turned the tablet. She went to London. Met with her solicitor. Filed papers. What kind of papers? A motion to contest the king's charitable trust. On grounds of mental incompetence. James's voice was hollow. She's claiming the king isn't fit to make financial decisions. That he's suffering from early dementia. She has doctors willing to testify. Medical records. She's been building this case for months. Michael stared at the screen. If she can't kill him, she'll destroy his reputation. Lock him out of his own assets. It's more than that. James pulled up another document. If she succeeds, she becomes his legal guardian. Controls everything. The trust never happens. The money stays with her. Can she actually do this? With the right lawyers? The right doctors? Maybe. James looked sick. And if the king fights it publicly, the scandal could tear apart the monarchy. Either way, she wins. Sarah stepped forward. Unless we prove she tried to kill him, then nothing else matters. We have the chemicals, Michael said. The glasses, the flowers, which prove someone tried to poison him.
Nice.
James shook his head. Not who. The glasses could have been tampered with by anyone with access. Staff, security, the queen. Has the best defense lawyers in the country. They'll create reasonable doubt. Blame someone else. Maybe even blame Dr. Chen. Sarah went pale. I was in the hedge. I had access to the estate. I have motive, my sister's death. They could frame me. Michael's mind raced. What about the phone? The messages. Burner phone? Untraceable.
Oh.
James pulled up the records. The number it was texting doesn't exist anymore. Dead end, they were losing. Michael could feel it. The Queen had planned too well. Covered every angle. Even discovery of the plot wouldn't stop her. She'd just pivot. Attack from another direction. Unless they could prove she orchestrated everything. Not just the poison. The entire conspiracy. Emma's research, Michael said suddenly. Where is it? Sarah frowned. Police have it. What's left of it? No, the real research. Where did she work? The lab. But it's been closed. Demolished, actually. 3 months ago, Michael turned to James. That's too convenient. Who owned the building? James's fingers flew across the keyboard. Let me check property records. A pause. Then his eyes widened. It was owned by a holding company, which is owned by, he looked up, a private trust, established 12 years ago. Primary beneficiary? Camilla Parker Bowles. The room went silent. They had her. Not circumstantial evidence. Direct connection. The Queen owned the building where the poison was developed. Where Emma Chen worked. Where she died. That's our proof, Michael breathed. But James's expression didn't change. It's a start. But it's still not enough. She can claim she had no knowledge of what happened in a building she owned through a trust. She probably has dozens of properties. Hundreds, maybe. He was right. Michael knew it. But there had to be something. Some thread they could pull. Then Sarah spoke. The woman Emma photographed, Margaret, if we can find her. Identify her. She's the connection. The photo is gone, James said. From Emma's phone. But Sarah's eyes lit up. The lab had security cameras. If Emma took the photo at work, there might be footage. Archived somewhere. Michael grabbed James's arm. Who demolished the building? More typing. Construction company called Thames Builders. Contract was... James stopped. Contract was awarded 2 days after Emma Chen's death. Rush job. Building was gone within a week. Someone wanted that evidence destroyed. Michael's pulse raced. But construction companies keep records. Before and after photos. Permits, insurance documentation. I'll get a warrant, James said. That will take too long. I have another idea. A dangerous one. But it might be our only chance. Asterisk, Sarah's plan was simple. Reckless. Possibly illegal. But it was all they had. The Queen doesn't know I exist, Sarah explained. She doesn't know Emma had a sister. Doesn't know someone's been investigating. If I approach her, tell her I have Emma's research, that I want to sell it. She might incriminate herself. It's absolutely not, James said. Too dangerous. If she's willing to kill the king, she'll kill me too. I know. Sarah's voice was steady. But I'm dead anyway if we don't stop her. She'll figure out eventually that Emma had family. That someone has been asking questions. Better to control the encounter than wait for her to come to me. Michael shook his head. We can't ask you to do this. You're not asking. I'm volunteering. Sarah looked between them. My sister died trying to expose this. I won't let that be for nothing. Took 4 hours to set up. Sarah would wear a wire. Micro camera and her glasses. James would coordinate a response team. And Michael would be her backup. Close enough to intervene. Far enough to not spook the Queen. The meeting was arranged through a series of anonymous emails. Sarah claimed to have Emma's complete research. All formulas. All notes. Including names. She wanted £2 million. Cash and immunity from prosecution. The Queen's response came within 30 minutes. A location, a time, and a warning. Come alone. The location was an estate in Kent. 1 hour from London. Private, secluded, perfect for a murder. She's not going to pay you, Michael said as they drove. You know that. I know. Sarah checked her wire for the 3rd time. She's going to try to kill me. Take the research. Cover her tracks. Then why are we doing this? Because she'll have to say something first. Have to confirm she knows what the research is. Why it's valuable? Sarah's hands were steady. That's all we need. Her admitting knowledge. One sentence. And we have her. The estate appeared through the trees. Old, elegant, isolated. Michael pulled over half a mile away. Sarah would walk the rest. He would follow through the woods. If anything goes wrong, Michael started, it will go wrong. Sarah managed to smile. That's the point. Just make sure you're there when it does. She walked into the gathering darkness. Michael counted to 60. Then he followed. The house was lit from within, warm lights spilling onto manicured gardens. Michael stayed in the shadows, watched Sarah approach the front door. It opened before she could knock. A woman stood in the doorway. Silver hair, elegant bearing. The Queen, through his earpiece, Michael heard Sarah's voice. Thank you for meeting me. You have something that belongs to me. The Queen's voice was cultured, cold. I'd like it back. It belonged to my sister. She's dead because of you. Pause. I'm sorry for your loss. But I don't know what you're talking about. Yes, you do. Sarah pulled a folder from her bag. Emma Chen. Chemist. She worked for you. Developed a binary poison. You had her killed when she tried to back out. The Queen's face didn't change. Those are serious accusations. Do you have proof? I have her research. Her notes. Including descriptions of the woman who hired her. Margaret, she called herself. But we both know that's not your real name. Many people are named Margaret. Many people don't own the building where the research was conducted. Sarah stepped forward. I know everything. The flowers. The glasses. The attempt on the king's life this morning? For the first time, the Queen's composure cracked. Just for a moment. That's unfortunate. She stepped back. 2 men appeared from inside the house. Large, professional, not house staff. Michael was already moving. His hand on his radio. James. Now. But the men were fast. One grabbed Sarah's arm. The other reached for her bag. Sarah didn't fight. Just kept talking. Recording. You're going to kill me, she said calmly. Like you killed Emma. Like you tried to kill your husband. All for money. Not just money. The Queen's mask was completely gone now. Legacy. Power. Do you know what it's like to be second? Always second? The king's second wife? Second in line for everything. While he gives away billions to strangers? So you decided to kill him? I decided to take what should have been mine from the beginning. The Queen nodded to her men. Make it look like an accident. A mugging gone wrong. Michael burst from the trees. Armed police. Release her. The men spun. One reached for a weapon. Michael's training took over. 2 shots. Center mass. The man went down. The second man released Sarah and raised his hands. The Queen didn't run. Didn't flinch. Just stood there, watching as James and his team swarmed the property. As the wire was removed from Sarah's jacket, as her own words, her own confession, played back to her. You can't use that, the Queen said quietly. I'm entitled to privacy. You entrapped me. You tried to murder your husband, James replied. And you just confessed to ordering the death of Dr. Sarah Chen, in front of witnesses. With recording, the Queen's lawyer would fight it, would try every legal maneuver, but it wouldn't matter. The confession was clear, damning, and the evidence backed it up. The chemicals, the ownership records, the timeline. It took 3 months for the trial. The media circus was everything James had feared. International scandal, constitutional crisis. But the evidence was overwhelming. The Queen was convicted of conspiracy to commit murder, sentenced to life imprisonment. The King's charitable trust was finalized. Billions redistributed. A legacy secured. And Michael stood at his post at Highgrove, watching the gardens in the early morning light. He'd been promoted. Given commendations, but none of that mattered as much as the simple fact that the king was alive. Sarah visited sometimes. She'd written a book about Emma, about the investigation. All proceeds went to programs fighting domestic violence. Even queens can be victims and perpetrators, she'd told Michael. Money and power don't change human nature. On Tuesday mornings, the king still walked the gardens, but he didn't arrange flowers anymore. That ritual had died with the trust. Instead, he planted new roses, each one named for someone lost to violence, to greed, to the corrupting weight of power. And Michael stood guard, no longer invisible, no longer silent, because he'd learned that sometimes breaking protocol was the only way to save a life. Sometimes doing the right thing meant risking everything, and sometimes a single guard at his post was all that stood between a king and death. The morning air was cold. The frost still came. But the gardens were safe. The king was safe. And Michael had learned that 11 years of silence could be broken in a single moment of courage. The kind of moment that defined not just a career, but a life.